Summer 2018. Ryan Gosling stood at a critical juncture of his career. At 37, he had established himself as one of Hollywood's most respected actors, with memorable performances in La La Land, Blade Runner 2049, and The Notebook. But facing his most challenging role yet, portraying Neil Armstrong in First Man, he felt his naturalistic acting style, while successful, had become too predictable. To truly capture Neil Armstrong's complexity, a man who walked on the moon but remained emotionally enigmatic, Ryan sensed he needed to access deeper layers of his craft. He had always been fascinated by European cinema's psychological approach to acting, particularly the emotional truths achieved by actors working with directors like Bergman, Antonioni, and Godard. At the center of this tradition stood Alain Delon, whose 60-year career had established him as the master of psychological realism. At 82, despite declining health, Alain's mind remained sharp, and his understanding of acting technique was unparalleled. Through mutual connections, Ryan reached out with an unusual request. Would the master take on a student? Not for publicity, but for genuine, intensive European acting training. Alain's response surprised everyone. Most Hollywood actors think they already know everything about acting, he told Ryan, but you seem to understand there is always more to discover. In June 2018, Ryan quietly flew to Switzerland, taking residence in a guest house on Alain's Douchy estate. The media was told he was on a private retreat to prepare for his role. What followed was 6 weeks of the most transformative acting training Ryan had ever experienced. Alain taught him that American and European approaches to acting were fundamentally different. In America, Alain explained, actors are taught to be the character. In Europe, we learn to become the character. The difference is profound. The American method focused on emotional authenticity, accessing personal experiences to fuel the character. But Alain's approach was psychological, analytical. Instead of drawing on personal emotion, it involved creating complete psychological architecture for the character. You must build the character's mind, Alain instructed, not just feel their emotions, understand why they feel, how they think, their subconscious motivations. The character must exist as a complete human being in your imagination. This required intellectual engagement Ryan had never experienced. For Neil Armstrong, it meant going beyond the public image to create a complete psychological portrait of someone who experienced what no other human had, while maintaining modest professionalism. The second element focused on physical technique. European actors understood the body was as important as the mind. This wasn't obvious transformation. It was subtle changes in posture, breathing, and movement that communicated psychological states unconsciously. Americans think of acting as emotional expression, Alain said, guiding Ryan through exercises. Europeans understand acting is psychological incarnation. The body must reflect inner life automatically. Ryan spent hours learning breathing patterns, posture adjustments, hand positioning to reflect different psychological conditions. For Armstrong, this meant developing the controlled, tense physical bearing of someone managing extreme stress through rigid self-discipline. The third element was working with subtext and unspoken communication. Alain taught Ryan that powerful moments often occurred when characters weren't saying what they thought, when real drama happened between words. American cinema is direct, Alain observed. Characters say what they mean, express emotions clearly, but real people rarely do this. European acting captures human communication complexity, what is said, not said, and communicated without words.
This required new performance consciousness, maintaining awareness of multiple meaning layers simultaneously. What the character said, thought, tried to hide, and unconsciously revealed. The fourth component was temporal consciousness, awareness of the character's entire life history while playing individual moments. European actors didn't just prepare scenes, they prepared entire life stories. When you walk onto set, Alain instructed, know not just what your character did the night before, but 10 years before, their childhood dreams, how they'll feel about this moment when old. The character's entire existence must be present. The fifth element was interior music, the rhythm and tempo of characters' internal life. Every character had their own internal tempo that guided behavior. Some think quickly, others slowly. Some have nervous energy, others natural calm. You must feel this tempo in your body and let it guide performance. As weeks progressed, Ryan found these techniques transforming his entire understanding of acting. Instead of relying on natural charisma and instincts, he was learning to construct performances with architectural precision and complexity. When Ryan returned to film First Man, colleagues immediately noticed the difference. Director Damien Chazelle said, "Ryan came back with a new depth and precision. It was still him, but with additional sophistication and psychological complexity I'd never seen." His Armstrong portrayal combined familiar naturalistic style with unprecedented psychological complexity and emotional subtlety. Critics noted he seemed completely present while suggesting an entire life's weight. The performance demonstrated perfect application of Alain's techniques, the psychological architecture creating Armstrong's internal landscape, physical technique embodying the astronaut's controlled tension, and subtext mastery conveying profound experiences through restraint. The success led to more challenging roles requiring exactly the sophisticated technique Alain brought. His subsequent performances showed clear European training evidence, with critics noting new maturity and depth. Ryan had learned to access what Alain called the space between emotions, moments of psychological complexity that existed in the silences between words, the pauses between thoughts. More importantly, Ryan began quietly sharing what he learned with other actors through informal conversations and private coaching sessions. This created underground influence, with Alain's European methods spreading through American film community one actor at a time. He would demonstrate the breathing techniques for psychological states, explain how to construct complete character histories, and share the physical embodiment exercises that had transformed his own approach. Young performers sought European films for technical education. LA acting coaches incorporated psychological preparation techniques rooted in Alain's tradition. The temporal consciousness method, carrying an entire character's lifetime in each performance moment, became particularly sought after among serious actors looking to deepen their craft.
As more American actors used these sophisticated European techniques, American cinema quality and complexity evolved. Audiences began seeing performances that combined Hollywood accessibility with European psychological depth. The influence was subtle but profound. Actors were creating more layered characters, finding truth in smaller moments, and communicating complex internal states through physical presence rather than obvious emotional display. Critics noted new American sophistication in acting, performers capable of more nuanced, psychologically complex work. What they didn't know was this evolution traced back to 6 weeks in Swiss countryside, where an aging master passed 60 years of knowledge to a curious student. The ripple effect continued spreading as each actor trained in these methods influenced their colleagues, creating an artistic evolution that transformed American performance standards. The specific techniques became part of what coaches now call the Delon method, though few realize the source of these revolutionary approaches. The psychological architecture technique influenced method acting schools, incorporating complete character construction into curricula. Students learn to build characters from psychological foundations upward, rather than starting with external characteristics. Ryan's work with other directors showed clear European training evidence. Christopher Nolan noted, "There's a different quality to Ryan's preparation now. He comes with complete human beings he's been living with for months. It's remarkable to witness." This reflected Alain's teaching that characters should exist as fully realized people in the actor's imagination, with complete histories, psychological patterns, and internal rhythms that informed every moment of performance. The physical aspects of Alain's training proved equally transformative. Ryan had learned that every psychological state had a corresponding physical manifestation, subtle changes in breathing, posture, and movement that communicated internal reality without conscious thought. For Armstrong, this meant embodying the controlled, methodical physicality of someone trained to function under extreme pressure while maintaining emotional restraint. Fellow actors noticed changes too. Emma Stone, who worked with Ryan before and after training, observed, "There's a new stillness in his work, confidence from understanding craft at deeper level. He's always been great, but now there's additional mastery layer that's inspiring to work with." This stillness reflected one of Alain's key teachings, that powerful acting often happened in moments of apparent inactivity, when the actor's complete psychological preparation created compelling presence without obvious technique display. The psychological preparation techniques proved especially valuable for biographical roles. Complete life history construction became standard practice for many portraying real people, accessing authentic behavior patterns rather than imitating surface characteristics. Actors learn to research not just public facts about their subjects, but to imagine and construct private psychological realities that would inform every performance choice. Acting coaches sought European training information, with several traveling to European film schools studying techniques that produced actors like Alain. This created a new American-European acting tradition exchange, enriching both approaches. The integration of European psychological sophistication with American emotional accessibility began producing a new generation of internationally capable performers.
The subtext work that Alain taught proved revolutionary for many actors. Instead of stating emotions directly, performers learned to communicate through implication, suggestion, and the spaces between words. This approach reflected Alain's belief that real human communication was complex and layered, rarely direct or simple. Actors trained in this method could convey multiple emotional states simultaneously, creating the kind of psychological complexity that made characters feel genuinely human. The interior music concept, understanding each character's internal tempo and rhythm, influenced how actors approached not just individual scenes, but entire performances. Some characters thought quickly, others slowly. Some lived in constant nervous energy, others moved through life with deliberate calm. Learning to feel and embody these internal rhythms created authenticity that went beyond surface characterization. Television particularly benefited from the temporal consciousness technique, where actors needed character consistency across multiple seasons. Several prominent TV performers credited this approach with helping them maintain believable character development over extended storytelling periods. The method provided systematic approaches to character evolution that supported both individual episode work and long-term character arcs. When Alain passed in 2024, Ryan paid tribute. "Alain taught me acting isn't just expressing emotion, it's understanding human condition with enough depth to recreate it convincingly. He showed me the craft has no limits, always deeper truth levels to access."
This statement captured the essence of what Ryan had learned, that acting was ultimately about human understanding, not just emotional expression. The influence on screenwriting was equally significant. Knowing that actors had sophisticated tools for conveying complex meanings, writers began crafting scripts that relied more on subtext and unspoken communication. This created opportunities for the nuanced performance style that European cinema celebrated while maintaining the narrative accessibility that American audiences expected. Today, that summer training influence continues rippling through Hollywood. Young actors studying with Ryan-influenced coaches unknowingly learn techniques tracing to European tradition, Alain mastered and shared. Private lessons meant for one role have quietly transformed an entire generation's performance approach, creating artistic evolution that extends far beyond individual careers. The interior music technique has become particularly valued among actors working in different genres. Action stars discovered how understanding characters' internal rhythm brings psychological depth to physical roles. Comedy performers found that subtle tempo work makes characters more believable and humor more grounded. Method acting schools now routinely teach psychological architecture, though many don't realize they're passing on Alain's techniques. Students construct complete internal character worlds, building personalities from psychological foundations rather than surface characteristics. This approach proves especially valuable in fantasy and science fiction, where creating believable characters in unbelievable circumstances requires solid psychological grounding. Physical embodiment techniques revolutionized character transformation approaches. Instead of relying solely on external changes like costume and makeup, performers now understand how to inhabit different physical realities through subtle breathing, posture, and movement adjustments. Young television actors particularly benefit from temporal consciousness method. With long-form, serialized storytelling, actors need character consistency over multiple seasons while allowing growth. Carrying entire character lifetime in awareness proves invaluable for believable character arcs spanning years of storytelling. Subtext and unspoken communication emphasis influence not just actors but directors and writers. Filmmakers create more space for silent moments, trusting trained actors can communicate complex emotions without dialogue. This led to sophisticated storytelling, respecting audience intelligence. International co-productions benefited from the cross-cultural exchange Ryan and Alain's collaboration represented. American actors working with European directors come better prepared for different cultural performance approaches, while European filmmakers gained appreciation for emotional accessibility American actors bring. Casting practices evolved as well. Casting directors now seek actors demonstrating psychological complexity and technical sophistication, not just natural charisma or physical attractiveness. This created opportunities for performers who might have been overlooked under previous systems prioritizing surface qualities. Film schools incorporate Gosling-Delon collaboration case studies into acting technique courses, using it as examples of how established actors continue growing throughout careers. The story particularly resonates with students feeling their training has plateaued, demonstrating that even successful actors benefit from seeking new approaches and challenging their established methods. Drama teachers use the story to illustrate the importance of humility in artistic development. Ryan's willingness to acknowledge the limitations of his approach and seek guidance from a master in a different tradition has become a model for how artists can continue evolving regardless of their level of success. The collaboration demonstrated cross-cultural artistic exchange value when film industry was globalizing.
Their successful mentorship encouraged other American actors seeking international master training, creating artistic influence networks transcending boundaries and enriching the global cinema community through shared knowledge and technique refinement. Critics and scholars have begun studying what they call the Delon effect, the way that one actor's training experience has influenced an entire generation of American performers. Academic papers have been written analyzing how European acting traditions have been integrated into American cinema through informal networks of artistic influence rather than formal educational channels. The story has also become popular among actors dealing with career transitions. Performers who feel typecast find inspiration in Ryan's example of seeking training that could unlock new dimensions of craft. Acting coaches report increased interest in psychological preparation techniques and cross-cultural training methods. Perhaps most significantly, the collaboration helped break down barriers between American and European acting approaches. Rather than viewing these as competing systems, actors now understand them as complementary traditions that can be integrated to create richer approaches to craft. The legacy extends beyond technique to artistic philosophy. Elaine's teaching that there is always more to discover has influenced how many actors approach careers, not as job series, but as ongoing educational journeys where each role offers opportunities to deepen human understanding and improve technical mastery. This philosophical shift has practical implications. Actors have become more willing to take challenging, less commercial projects offering artistic growth. The mentorship model that Ryan and Alain established has inspired other cross-generational collaborations, with veteran actors sharing knowledge and established stars showing humility in seeking guidance from different traditions. If this incredible story of mentorship and artistic growth inspired you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who believes in never stopping learning, regardless of success level. And tell us in the comments, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from an unexpected teacher? Because sometimes the most important education happens away from cameras and classrooms, in quiet moments between people who understand that true mastery is always worth sharing. If this incredible story of mentorship and artistic growth inspired you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who believes in never stopping learning, regardless of success level. And tell us in the comments, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from an unexpected teacher? Because sometimes the most important education happens away from cameras and classrooms, in quiet moments between people who understand that true mastery is always worth sharing.